How's it going, everyone? Laughing here, and today I'm going to be talking about what makes a good mobile game. But before I get started, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. About half of my viewers are not subscribed, so let's change that today. And if you could also share this video on whatever social media you use, goes a long way to help grow the channel, and it would be much appreciated. So hopping right into it, what makes a good mobile game? There's a lot of different mobile games out there on the market. You got your card games, you got games like Call of Duty Mobile, you got strategy games, more like Fire Emblem Heroes, and a bunch of different games in between. So I just kind of broke it down into mostly four different categories, just kind of a fifth one, but it's kind of a tack on, to be honest with you, of what makes a good mobile game. And in order for a mobile game to be good, it has to have at least two of these qualities, more than likely kind of more three, but bare minimum, definitely two of them. Due to the pandemic, I went from being on the road all the time, on my feet, talking with people, constantly busy, to having to stay in my house with a lot more free time on my hands during the workday. So, hey, I was like, I'm going to throw in kind of a mobile game in to kind of spicing up the day every so often. Don't worry, I still did my work, got it all done and everything. But, kind of in between some of my downtime, I would throw a mobile game on and, kind of go through and play it. So I have played a lot of different mobile games this past year, and I'm kind of a habitual mobile game goer througher. I go through mobile games pretty quickly. They have a really hard time of kind of keeping my interest for various reasons that I'll kind of touch on in this video. But because of that, I've actually played a decent amount of the mobile games on the market. Not all of them, of course, but a good handful, shall we say. And there's a few games that kind of stick out to me when it comes to being a really good example of certain things. There's also some other games that are really kind of bad examples of other things as well that I'll kind of get into. Starting us off, we have engaging gameplay. I feel like this is a core element to a lot of big games out there right now. Fortnite, Call of Duty Mobile, Hearthstone, even like an older game like Temple Run was really engaging. While you're playing it, your eyes were fixated on that screen so you didn't die. And also Genshin Impact, a more recent mobile game. Because there are so many different mobile games out there, the whole engaging elements can kind of differ. So obviously, if it's a card game, it's going to be more strategy based. Is it going to be able to keep your attention? Is it interesting? Is the card game itself interesting? Or is it more of like competitive, like Call of Duty Mobile, Fortnite? So these are kind of a few things I like to keep in mind. Also, I gotta say, Among Us, special shout out, really did a really good job with the gameplay mechanics. That's pretty much all it had. Even though you did have to pay like $3 to get into it, the gameplay was like on point there. That might be like the only other thing on this list that has like two check marks in the good category for these. So shout out to Among Us. But I feel like gameplay itself is really important. If the gameplay is boring, a lot of times the game itself is boring. You're not gonna want to keep playing, because that is a lot of times the core mechanic of the actual game. Number two, and I feel like it is probably gets the award for the most room for improvement for mobile games. A lot of the games I feel like are good on this list are actually ports from PC, and that is going to be good and engaging story. So it is really hard to find a mobile game that actually has a really good and engaging story. I've kind of thrown a few on this list as kind of like, yeah, they're okay. They kept my attention at the very least, but it's kind of it. There's a lot of different like visual novel games out there that I feel like do a very good job with this. I haven't played any of those in a really long time. But kind of thinking back, I know if there's a few good ones out there that I can't really name off the top of my head. But Fire Emblem Heroes, actually, I found pretty interesting in terms of story. It did a good job of taking a lot of the characters from the actual core Fire Emblem games, putting them in the game, justifying why they're there, which is, pretty interesting in general. King's Raid as well, I played over the summer. Decent story, kept me somewhat interested. It had a few good cinematics mechanics in there, so that was kind of cool. But for me, the kings of best story in these mobile games has to go to KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2, or Knights of the Old Republic. Yes, they are PC ports of these games to mobile, but I mean, come on. Like, they, hands down, they get top prize for best story in a mobile game. Like, I don't care where they came from, they get that absolutely hands down. In general, I would like to see mobile games kind of step up to the plate when it comes to stories. I feel like it's pretty lackluster. A lot of times these games really focus more on like the gameplay elements and maybe even more of like the rewarding gameplay loop to them, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but I would like to see some more mobile games that have all that, but also have a good and engaging story as well. I think that would really help drive the mobile game market as a whole kind of forward and a little bit more of matured. I still feel like the mobile game market itself is still pretty young and has a long ways to go before it's, you know, more fully matured and much more interesting and engaging as a whole, as a industry. I mean, as it stands right now, mobile gaming brings in billions, I do mean billions of dollars into the gaming market. There's a reason why there's PUBG Mobile, Fortnite Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, why Nintendo got into the mobile game, of course, but because there's so much money, and I would really like to see these story elements of these mobile games get driven further up. They kind of help separate it from everything else that's kind of there already. So if you have any suggestions of good storied mobile games, let me know down in the comments below. Moving on, we have rewarding gameplay loop, and I feel like this is one of the core elements of any mobile game. If you don't have rewarding gameplay elements, what do you have 9 times out of 10? So you don't need a good story. Sometimes you don't even need to have engaging gameplay itself. It just needs to be a rewarding gameplay loop in some way. I feel like a good example of not having those last two but still having a good gameplay loop is going to be actually Fallout Shelter. I feel like Fallout Shelter does a good job because you kind of see your vault grow. You can send people on missions. You get a lot of stuff fairly easily. I feel like the monetization in it isn't too bad either, which is really kind of good to see. It is made by Bethesda, so you know they kind of have a checkered past when it comes to monetizing things. Looking at you, Creators Club, but in general, I don't think it's like grotesque, especially for a mobile game in general. There. This might be just me, but I feel like Call of Duty had a pretty good gameplay loop as well. I don't play anymore. If I want to play Call of Duty, I'm going to go play it on my PS4. But in general, I do remember the leveling and everything being pretty spot on. And to me, that's why I play Call of Duty games in the first place. Like, gameplay is a lot of times fun as well, but it's that gameplay loop, the rewards. I love the leveling up, the unlocking guns, the unlocking attachments, what have you, that really get me going in the Call of Duty games. And I feel like Call of Duty Mobile did a pretty decent job of doing that as well. And I feel like another part of this, which is going to tie into my last big point, is a fair grind. At the end of the day, a lot of these mobile games do have some sort of grind, which I get. You hit a certain point where you're either running out of content, what have you. They add that grind in to keep players engaged, kind of slow them down after a little bit so they can buy themselves time to get up more content out a lot of times and just kind of keep players engaged. But it has to be a fair grind at the end of the day. I have played so many games where the grind off the bat even is just ridiculous. Like, they want me to devote my life to this game, and I'm not about it. I'm not going to do it. I don't have that big of an attention span to be giving to a mobile game. So yeah, fair grind is really important, and tying that in to fair grind is fair monetization. For me, this will absolutely make or break a game for me. It can have good engaging gameplay, it can have a good engaging story even, it can have a good gameplay loop, but if you have trash monetization, I'm going to stop playing it pretty quickly. And that's actually a lot of times what gets me out of mobile games in the first place, is I reach a point and I'm like, oh, I got you. I understand it's free to play, but I'm not going to spend $200 to be somewhat competitive, which is absolutely ridiculous. A few examples of what I think is bad monetization in a game is Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I played that for a while. I was really close to spending money on that game, and I'm really proud of myself that I didn't. The monetization in that game is ridiculous. I played that game a lot. I was also very competitive with it, and I just hit a point where I had to start spending money in order to actually be competitive with more players, which I get. If they're paying money, I understand, they're going to get further up than I am, but it just absolute killer for me. Another one is going to be Genshin Impact as well. I actually really like the gameplay of that game. The story wasn't bad either. I was actually having a lot of fun. It was basically Breath of the Wild on my phone, which is really cool. And I played it on PC too. And even on PC, it wasn't bad. But it hit a point where I was like, oh, in order to have like really good characters and to be more competitive in the game, I'm gonna have to shell out some money. And the grind in that to get the paid currency, if you will, I was not a fan of. You have to keep on rolling for the same players over and over and over again. And Fire Emblem Heroes 2 is really bad with this in order to have them be competitive, to be top tier. I don't want to play a game where I get a character and I have to get them 5 more times for them to be top tier. I should get that character once. And if there's some sort of grind for me to level them up and get to that point, cool. I'm all about it. But if I have to literally roll for them again, spin the loot box, spin the wheel, what have you, I'm not about it at all. Another good game that did fare on monetization was also King's Raid. It was kind of a grind to get them, but you never really had to spend money. And there was never like a loot box style for those characters with the paid gems or the gems that you got in general. You could just buy a character that you wanted, which is really cool. I haven't really seen that a whole lot in the game. So if you had a player that did just want to like buy all the characters right away, you could. And a lot of it was mostly, for the most part, outfits and that sort of things. I know there was some equipment, like top tier equipment, that you really could only, for the most part, get for rolling the loot boxes, which I'm not a really big fan of. For me, monetization is huge in these games, especially when they're free to play. I get that developers, they want to make money, they want to make a lot of money. I get it. But you're going to lose me, and I know a lot of other people as well, if the monetization is just stupid and unfair. I have seen and heard of games going from pretty decent, having a good community, and then monetization is getting stupid, and everyone leaves. It's really kind of sad to see, but that's what happens. Developers will literally kill their own games through over monetization. It happens in normal games and like $60 AAA games, and it happens on mobile games. And it's in general kind of sad to see. The last thing I'll mention, this is kind of my miscellaneous category because it's, I don't know, like some of this is kind of like whatever. But graphics, graphics can be good. I know Genshin Impact graphics wise, I still think is fantastic. I really have to give them that. And then good tutorials as well. If you start the game off and there's either no tutorial, super duper handholdy, which is always super annoying, or just, I don't know, just annoying or bad, not really showing you what you need to do, that can kind of really start a game off on the wrong foot. Hopefully this video can kind of help explain, what does make a good mobile game, kind of put it into words. I'd say put it on paper, but it's in the form of a video. And I do plan on going through and reviewing some mobile games going forward. And there's actually one game in particular that I am in the process of reviewing. That is actually Pokemon Masters EX. It's a Pokemon game. I tried it years ago, and I picked it up again and just wanted to see how it is. So I will be reviewing that game in the next week or so kind of keep an eye out for that. But I feel like this is a good kind of blueprint to look at going forward, either for myself reviewing games or for you guys as well. Kind of if you don't really know how you feel on a game, maybe you can watch this video and maybe hopefully figure it out. So yeah, that is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Have a fantastic rest of your day and do something good for yourself. Take care.